Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 87th episode of the Spiritual Brainstorm. In this episode, I'd like to revisit a concept or an idea that is prevalent in the spiritual community, and that there's this split between the chosen ones that ascend into 5D Earth and the other ones that perish in 3D Earth, and the splitting of different Earth, the Earth, old Earth, between old Earth and new Earth, and it's too often viewed as good versus evil, of higher vibrations versus lower vibrations, and maybe I'd just like to offer some extra metaphors that look at this from a non-judgmental kind of point of view. So, the one metaphor that I used to give in some of my videos is this idea of music. And like if you play the violin, for instance, and you're really terrible about in playing the violin, then get into you won't get to play with an orchestra. You'll just be sort of sorted with people that play as bad as you, and then you can keep on training. But that implies that there is someone or some person that sorts people into, good player versus bad player. And I don't like that too much, even though the vibrations idea is really interesting, because if you can master your instrument, that is, for instance, the vibration of you, who you are basically, as an individual, because your body, your expression is like an instrument. In the end, you're playing as yourself in this whole reality. Then it is a kind of a sorting between those who have mastered and know how to play their instruments well and those that don't. But there's still this idea of good versus bad. And so I was trying to find a better sort of metaphor. And I've revisited this video that I've shown a lot of episodes back, which is really magical. It is the video of metronomes spontaneously synchronizing. And so, as you know, if you just put metronomes on a flat surface and just completely allow them to beat in a completely desynchronized way, after a certain moment, they spontaneously synchronize. Now, let me just play this video quickly. Yeah, so they just spontaneously synchronize after a certain period of time. I mean, you can just type metronome synchronization and look at the process. It's really magical. But here, basically, it's as if each of us was this metronome. Each human was a metronome. And your willpower, your free will, allowed you to control or to influence how fast the rhythm, how fast your metronome is beating, what rhythm it actually beats at, like how fast it sort of oscillates. And what happens is there's like a frequency band where, everybody is kind of pulled towards the mean, but the ones that beat higher, for instance, are pulling the ones that are beating lower via their free will to be, what we would call higher vibration, but it's just about like um, um, playing who you are to the best of your ability, which is like exert less resistance to your natural beating frequency, if you will. Like if you had like a natural frequency or rhythm at which your metronome is supposed to be beating, and your free will sort of interferes with that. And that's the idea of not being aligned with your higher self or what you're supposed to do in life, being miserable and all that. Then you find yourself somewhere in the bottom because you're self-sabotaging your natural rhythm, where you feel more at ease, where there's no resistance, where your free will is not opposed to this, but sort of plays around that, like you exactly like you would go swimming in the ocean, and there's a lot of waves, and you jump up and down with the waves and just have fun with that. And your free will is, of course, to sort of go counter cyclical, but you know it's not going to be very pleasant to get like when there's a crest, to get it right and slap in your face, and then try to jump here upwards. That'll drain you from your energy. And so you still have some amount of freedom to sort of move around, do fun things, but it's sort of best to be aligned with that natural sort of frequency. And that's the metaphor, to say that there is a natural frequency for each and every one of us, and that is gradually progressing into higher sort of frequencies, higher rhythms naturally, just like a plant grows, just like animals evolve, just like everything sort of changes and evolves and mutates. And if you oppose too much resistance and you slow down artificially your frequency, then at some point, if you have a lot of people, for instance, that start to be in phase, like you hear about this 144,000 people or whatever. Imagine if you have a lot of people that align with a certain rhythm as metronomes. They start to have a very, very big influence, if they lock in together, on all of the metronomes above them. And it exerts a real tremendous pressure either to join them or to go down below and align with other metronomes. But at some point, there's kind of a split. It's almost as if in this image of the metronomes, some of those sort of, it's almost as if this board, which is our current 3D Earth, like this plane, this dimension, sort of broke in the middle because of the tension that is provoked by metronomes that are beating at totally different frequencies and aligning and resonating together. Like at some point, there's a choice, and then the support breaks, and one set of metronomes find themselves in one reality, and the other metronomes in another reality. And it's not good or bad. It's simply that there's a split in terms of like the dimensions, for instance, and you find yourself with metronomes that beat at your frequency, at your rhythm, and you cannot no longer perceive or see the metronomes that beat at another frequency, simply because it it is too dissonant, it is too incompatible. There is too much tension for the support, for the board, to hold those metronomes in the same spot, in the same space. And this isn't bad, and this isn't good. It is simply different experiences for the souls or whatever. It's like when you look down on individual unicellular organisms that are still busy eating each other in the ocean, and competing for resources and fighting. You're not looking at them as bad or unevolved or whatever. You're just saying that that is the stage or the experience that they're at in terms of their learning process and stuff. And one gradually, they will sort of align with recognizing that they're part of a global organism and go in that direction. Or they can go lower and sort of decompose back into being proteins, individual proteins, and amino acids, back to the level of chemistry, and then maybe re-evolve back upwards. And that's fine as well. And that's the same process here, basically. It's the same. It's as if we're at the threshold of locking into like this unicellular organism, and you have the choice between going back to being proteins and amino acids and chemicals, or to really put the final touches on the laws or the rules that enable for that to lock into place, and then move on to a completely different reality. which isn't actually like detached in a physical sense, but more in a logical sense, which means this cell is still, from our perspective, for instance, it's still in the same on the same plane as amino acids and proteins. It's just that they live in their own kind of dimension. They cannot see this, but the cells can see the other way around. So every layer in the universe can kind of see what's below it, but not what's above it, until it reaches that stage, of course. So I hope you got this metaphor. Basically, it's that um, there is a sort of, it's almost like if everybody's sort of resonating with each other, and there's this tension that happens when too many people lock into a certain frequency, and others in another frequency, and that is too incompatible. It creates tensions that breaks the sort of middle ground where they can enjoy being in the same reality or the same space, and that at some point it breaks, and you find yourself in two different worlds. So again, feel free to comment if you have any questions. Hope you found this interesting, and talk to you in the next video.